in the Congress. We've served together now 12 years, all those 12 on the Ag Committee. So we have a lot in common. He grew up in a small town with a small high school. He had 24 kids in his class, and I had 31, so I was
we call that the big town.
The difference is, so I'm older, so I went to a one-room school for 7 years. And we had 7 kids when they closed it up. But anyway, Tim and I come from rural America. We care about rural America, we care about the small town, we care about agriculture, we care about the country. I was in the National Guard. I didn't get to be a command sergeant major, but I got to staff sergeant.
Yeah.
And I was proud to serve the country, and Tim is a command sergeant major in the Guard, retired, I guess.
Yep.
The highest ranking NCO to ever serve in Congress. He also is a teacher, you know, which is you know, and so he's got a great family, and he's done an outstanding job representing the 1st District of Minnesota in the Congress. And he is who we need as the next governor of Minnesota. So I'm making a contribution today to his campaign. I'm flying him around in my and hopefully it's a little bumpy up there, but he'll be all right. I've been in some of those National Guard planes.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, I'm just pleased to be here, and you know, we've all been doing everything we can to see that he gets elected. He's the right candidate for the Democrats to do this, to have this fall, and I think it's going to be a good year. I've been doing this a long time, and I've been in wave elections going each way. And I was there in 06 when I saw what happened. We got in the majority. It feels like 06.
Okay.
Yeah. Like 010 the other way around.
Yeah.
It was for the Republicans. So I think we have the wind at our back. We just have to get through the primary, and that's on Tuesday. So we appreciate you all being here. Make sure you get all your friends and neighbors out to vote. And we got John Purcell here. John is come on up here. And he got caught up in the last wave, and he's going to be back in the House this time. The House back.
Yep.
We have a chance to take it in the Senate because Fishbach's seat is up. And if we can get a DFL governor, we can do some good things. So John, would you take the floor?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to be here today to support Congressman Walz and come see my old friend Congressman Peterson. This is a different. People ask me how's it going out there on the campaign trail, and the feeling, the reception is way different than it was 2 years ago, and I think that bodes well for all of us. Honestly, it bodes well for Minnesota, bodes well for the United States of America, and us veterans support each other.
That's right.
So I know we got a number of veterans in the room, and we're going to stick together and win this thing.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for coming out. Thank the Pt3 and Bemidji DFL for all their great work over the years, and some of you from other counties, Polk and the other places that are here. And so we are fired up, and we're going to get this thing done on Tuesday, and then we're going to get into the general election. So, Jim Walz, the next time.
Thank you to Colin, a great friend, not just to me, a great friend to Minnesota and this country, to have his steady leadership in Congress. To watch when Colin's in charge of farm bills, it's an amazing thing that happens. We get incredible pieces of legislation that are bipartisanly praised. They get to the president's desk, they're signed into laws, they make a difference for people. That's not where we're at right now. He needs to have that gavel back in his hand so that we can make good legislation. So I think that's not as a Democrat, that's as an American, because he knows how to get things done. John, thank you for all you've done. Exactly what we need to do, exactly what we need to get back in the House. And I got to be honest with you, having Governor Dayton work so hard and fight for us and do all the things he needed to do, but a lot of the times over the last few years, his job was to veto really bad pieces of legislation. I want my job to be to putting gavels in the hands of people like John, empower us to help people of Minnesota and move good legislation. That's why we need to win these seats, and most of those seats are in greater Minnesota, so let's win this one. So, John. All of you, the little ones you brought along, in a time of where it seems like politics is negative, it's divisive, it's meant to drive us apart, it's meant to pick towards our neighbors. This campaign has been about just the opposite. It's been about one Minnesota, about what we share in common. And when the Star Tribune said it's about a deep understanding of our shared and core values of what we can bring together, that's what this is about. To see a room full of people from all walks of life show up on a Sunday morning to talk about what is in the best interest of this state. You're not voting for just a candidate, we're voting for the future, for our children. We're voting for what we want to see together. And the ideals that this state has always prided itself on is we don't divide one another. We believe that every child should get a quality education. We believe that you honor those people in that classroom who are delivering that education. That these people who are out working and doing the jobs that make Minnesota work should be valued. And that we can create an economy where our entrepreneur spirit grows. And we can continue to not have to face false choices. We can do our agriculture that feeds the world, fuels the world, clothes the world. We can make sure that we're growing the companies in Minneapolis. We can make sure that if we're mining or we're doing lumbering, we do so in an environmentally sound manner that respects the tradition and respects those natural resources. We've always done that in Minnesota. We found a way to do it. It's the simple, petty politics of folks trying to divide us. So I am so grateful you're here. Peggy Flanagan and I believe, and you can feel it out there, just like Colin said, there's a hunger for a new type of politics. There's a hunger to make this work. There's a hunger for transparency. There's a hunger for people. All they're asking for is, hear our voices and give us a seat at the table. Let's figure out how we work this together. So we've been at this now for about 18 months. I always say this, that these are job interviews. Ridiculously long, stupidly expensive job interviews. But you get to see. And what you saw with Peggy Flanagan and I, we did things differently. I don't think it's right that you pick a running mate in the last week of the convention or the last day, and then try and figure out how you're going to get a tight little niche so that you can win an election. Elections are a means to an end. Tuesday is critically important because we need to be on the ballot in November to defeat Tim Paulini and take us towards that one Minnesota. None of you have ever lost sight. That means to the end is after we win that election, bringing the state together as one to govern in a manner that respects what this state's tradition was about. They respected the idea that you educate people. We respected the idea that our people producing and in the economy should be part of the decision making when we go to St. Paul to make those things happen. So we're excited about this. We built one of the largest coalitions, mayors ranging from the mayor of Minneapolis to Woodbury to Fergus Falls. We have folks from business communities. We have IFO came in here today. I want to thank them. We have Education Minnesota in here. We have trade union members in here, the largest group of support. And we've got Minnesotans from across the political spectrum saying, you know what, I want to turn on the TV and hear our elected leaders talk about what we share in common, talk about problem solving, talk about compromise for the good of the state, and talk about uniting us around those common Minnesota values. That's what this campaign has been about. We've got this thing to the goal line. I always say, Mark Dayton talks about, he played hockey growing up. He was a goalie. And I kind of feel like he's had to been a goalie the last few years, knocking back bad stuff. I was a football coach, and if you'd like, I could tell you about the state championship season, but we don't have enough time. So, but what I know about that is I like to score touchdowns. And we know that in this primary, we've worked incredibly hard. And I want to just say I'm incredibly proud. It has been positive from the beginning to the end. We have talked about what we're going to do. We've talked about no one else. We set our focus on the contrast with Tim Paulini and the type of governance or lack thereof that he had, and nothing else was said. So I feel like now, all of you, we've done our job to get to this point. We're going to win this thing Tuesday. The ball's sitting on the 48 hours of the get out the vote effort. We got people here, many of you have done this, putting up signs, making sure you vote, tell 5 neighbors to vote. We've got phone banks that call people. This is really about turnout. It's not calling to persuade people. It's calling good Democrats who know this is the right ticket, just reminding them in their busy lives to get to the polls. That's what we're doing in those phone banks and door knocks. But my analogy is that we've got this ball on the 1 yard line, And between now and Tuesday, our job is to punch it in. We're ready to do it. We punch that thing in. Tuesday night, we'll celebrate for a short period of time, and then we will turn, pivot, and we'll be ready to score all the way to November to make this campaign positive, aspirational. And think about this. When you see an upper Midwest that has fell to some of these policies, I think Colin's right. Something amazing happened down in Missouri last week, if you weren't following it. Many of you were here. Yeah. The folks who want to take away a hard-earned right that the veteran sitting in this room knows that one of the greatest liberties you have is the right to collectively bargain in your workplace. That is about economic freedom. That is about the things that we care about. So those folks who want to take that back from us, they thought the thing would be to put it on the votes down in Missouri. They think they've trended a little bit conservative, and we'll just put right to work on the ballot. And the people of Missouri said no. The people of Minnesota will say hell no come November. They'll say hell no, we going forward. And it's not enough to just say we're going to take the fight on labor, the folks that built this country, the folks that blood, sweat, and tears are building, feeding, fueling this country. We're going to make the case that we will strengthen those things. We will let people do more of that. So I'm grateful for your support. We need to get this last push in because these primaries are all about turnout. They're usually fairly low, but I think Colin's right again. The energy is high. People want to get out there. They see that this is the ticket that has sailed straight, sailed true, sailed honestly, and has a plan for one Minnesota. Now they need to cast that ballot on Tuesday. So thank you all. I'm getting ready to get in the plane with Colin, and we're going to, we're barnstorming.
And we'll say a prayer for you.
We're barnstorming. We got sign-up sheets, names, anything. If you want to connect with him, we can make this happen. And we're just grateful for all of you. And again, this is our time. This is our time to turn to the positive. I know that it gets this way. You turn on the TV and you wonder what got tweeted overnight. And honestly, I don't know how you couldn't worry something about the future. But we're Minnesotans. We're pragmatic, hardy people. You know what we don't do? We don't worry about the future. We simply carve the future we want to see. So let's just do that. We've got 2 days to get this. Then we got about 90 days to get to the general. And then you think about it. We wake up in January. I think there's a very real possibility. Peggy Flanagan and I are governor and lieutenant governor. John's in the House with a majority. We've got the House with Colin Peterson having a gavel in his hand. And my guess is there'll be some questions being asked in January come that way to get some things done. And we'll start moving this country back in that positive, hopeful, uniting direction rather than the petty, small, divisive. So get out there and do it. We'll do our work, and we'll see you Tuesday night.